Okay, Jake. What the teams do you like best here for names?
Yeah, for the names, I'd probably say the DC Defenders because it rolls off the tongue. I think that's a just DC Defenders. I think that sounds good. And then Seattle Dragons would be the other one. Pretty much just because dragons are cool, and anything with dragons in the name has to be interesting.
Yeah, my least favorite is the LA Wildcats so far, just because it's like, oh wow, another Wildcat team,
Right.
awesome. I mean, I don't know.
or tigers. It's just
Yeah,
like
can
yeah.
we
It's
get
like
another
come on,
Tigers game,
guys.
please? I like
Yeah.
New York Guardians a lot.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Vipers, yeah, maybe. The DC Defenders has like a double meaning, and it's like you can almost think like DC comic books, but also like DC Defenders, like capitalism, or you know what I mean, or whatever,
Yeah.
freedom,
Yeah.
however you want
Right.
to do it. Yeah, so it's
Right.
like
That's
okay,
that's yeah. My first thing was DC, and I'm thinking, okay, DC and Marvel and all that, and and then of course, like you said, DC Defenders. It's like, oh yeah, defending DC. So it's like, hey, somebody has to, right?
yeah.
So I like it. Yeah, and it
I
rolls off the tongue. I can see them selling a lot of merchandise.
yeah, Dallas the Renegades. Um, I think they have like the coolest logo. It's kind of like this Phantom, or not Phantom, but it's like a renegade, like almost like a gunslinging renegade. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like a black and light blue as their colors. It looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, I haven't even checked out any of the logos. I don't even know what the logos or the color schemes. But that would be another thing. It's always interesting is the uniforms. So so I haven't done a whole lot of research to see what people are wearing. I'm just not interested as much. But that'll be fun to check out on game day. So
Yeah, I get that. See, I'd like to know, like, I don't know, maybe I like to have the in on some things. I don't know. But it's
yeah,
also, the colors and stuff do have a lot to do with how many people have you heard say, like, oh, yeah, I like that because there's green? You know, it's like, oh my gosh. It is, you need the eye appeal too, for sure.
yeah, you do. Nice looking gear and merchandise definitely sells more and gets you that wider fan base. But you know, are people going to be buying the merchandise? I think that's a big question. So are they going to buy the T-shirts and everything like that, not knowing if the XFL is going to be here next year, or is it like limited time? It
I
might not
know.
be here. Get your souvenir
It's so hard to
now while you
trust it.
can.
But
Yeah.
Vince is a very good businessman. I think he has one up on other. I'm sure he's making some deals to make this work, or at least buy it
Yep.
more time to work.
Hmm.
Like if it comes around for its second season, people still won't even be convinced, in my opinion. Like I think it's going to take
No.
3 seasons, 3 full seasons. So
Yeah.
you're talking almost 4 years before, like, okay, this thing might be around.
Yep.
Well, you think so too?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. It's one of those things it's kind of like when the NFL introduced Thursday night football. It was too much,
Yeah,
right? And so they're doing this. Yeah, it's the off season. There hasn't been a whole lot of time. People just got done watching the NFL. Is this the actual right time of year for it, or should it be a couple months out still? And with a month or two break, I don't know, but we'll see how it ends up working out. And um, it's just 10-week schedule, I think, right? So I don't know if there's
I think
off
it.
off weeks in that, but
I think it ends in March. So yeah, it sounds about
yeah.
right. I could go
So
to one of the schedules, but yeah, that I like the fact that it is kind of congested to the football because I think the NFL has about the perfect time for when football should be. Like,
yeah,
but was that based off college football? I'm not even fully sure. So football it has the point right where it's at because we start to get busy all across the United States. Like if you're whatever your job is, we start to pick up kind of in March or even February. We try to get some early starts on stuff. So I don't know if it's going to be able to keep the viewership as the NFL does.
Yeah, and without the fan base, right? So they don't have a fan base yet. So the partnerships that they made, it's going to take a couple of years for people to get in there and actually build up a fan base for these teams, and so there's a lot there. So it's going to take time, and I think that's why most people are predicting fail. And let's face it, if you look at it,
Mm,
chances are it will fail, but
yeah,
I'm going to enjoy it while it's here. And and I'll be able to say years from now, oh yeah, I remember the XFL. I watched a couple games.
yeah,
So worst case scenario, I say that. Yeah, tiered system. What is it? 1, 2, and 3 points. So
yeah.
1 point's
So
on the 2 yard line, I think.
yeah, 1 point 2 yard line, and from the 5 yard, it's 2 points, and from the 10 it's three.
Yeah, and that's cool. And so you got to think, how many games people might be down. It basically, if they're down by what, 9, they can potentially still tie. That's
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. So it could bring back some pretty good comebacks, I think. So even if your team's way under, they could definitely come back, which you just start to see some blowouts here and there, and you're just like, okay, this is not worth watching anymore.
no,
But here, I think just due to the high scoring and the way things are set up, I think it'll be a lot more exciting overall.
yeah. I like the fact that it forces teams to not just like turtle up or be so conservative. Like, no, you have to play football.
Hmm.
Like you're never going to be safe just off of the initial. Like yeah, like you said, 9 points. Well, let's say not likely to happen, especially at the skill level, which I don't even know, so I can't fully say that. But what I'm assuming, if you were up 18 points, that's a lot. Well, they can score two touchdowns, and let's say there's 3.5 minutes left. That's actually possible.
Hmm.
So yeah, it forces teams to be a little bit more crazy, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah, and with the faster pace and teams getting worn out, they get some fresh players in there. I don't know, is the depth of each team different, or is it the
See,
same?
I'm assuming it's less, but I don't know, so I can't put input on that. I can't weigh into that
Yeah, yeah. I mean
because
that.
that's something I need to look into. I'm really curious. I'm still learning, just like everyone else. I think
Right.
pertaining to the XFL.
Yeah, and then I wonder, just based upon the depth of them, and then you always have different skill levels, right? But you got to imagine these people are pretty close to NFL level, and if you look at the NFL, yeah, of course, there's certain players who rise above it all and are just absolutely exceptional. And I imagine we'll still see that in the XFL, but I wonder if there's going to be more people who are on a more even playing ground. And so, for instance, okay, you got your QB, uh, but they have no issue swapping in another QB who's just as good, or is that just going to throw the game way off? And I don't know, of course, but it could be pretty interesting, especially this is the first season, right? So
Yeah,
so I imagine that the benches is going to go pretty deep as far as players who get to be played, um, but which of course will make fantasy football horrific. but
yeah.
uh,
Speaking of, how did you make a fantasy football team for the Super Bowl?
yeah, I ended up doing a team, and so I did what was it, like, a $50 tournament there on FanDuel,
Oh
and
wow,
and
that's a pretty good size one.
yeah, yeah. Well, I did it just because I have to almost go to the bigger ones because otherwise there's just too many players and I suck. And
I
so
gotcha.
yeah, I
Okay.
have no chance of ever cashing in. And then, one of the guys that I had, Hardman, because I was pretty big on running backs. Hardman got injured and was out, and he only scored like 1 point before he was removed. And so I was like, well, man, I'm done. Like, there's no way I'm going to win. And I check in, it brought it up on my screen with a couple of minutes left to play in the game. And I was like, yep, there's no way. I'm pretty far out. But I had a Darian Williams, in there.
Williams.
Yeah, and he ended up doing a breakout run and scoring a touchdown like that he probably shouldn't have scored, and so that actually was one of the last plays of the game, and that put me over the top. So I just inched my way in by like point 0.2 points or something like that. So
Wow.
yeah,
Holy
yeah. So I
cow.
got a double up, which is nice. So hey,
Yeah.
I have some funds to waste on the XFL if I so choose, if I can ever figure out. I don't even know the starting roster. I was trying to look up the
No.
starting roster. So like, okay, who's starting? I have no idea. And
I just. Oh,
so
not to interrupt you. I subscribed to all the teams like months ago, and their Twitters and all that, and I'm just not getting the information I thought that should have been promoted. But I don't know. Maybe that's their angle. Uh, Great business people, so I'm assuming there's something to it. I doubt it's just on their end, but you know what? We'll definitely find out real soon. So
yeah,
this weekend.
yeah, and there's a number of players there. And I don't know a lot of players in general. I mean, talk to me about names, and I just don't know. Of course, I know some of the bigger names, but I looked through some of the rosters for the 300K XFL Saturday Special, and a lot of these names, I shouldn't say a lot, but at least several of the names I recognize. It's like, oh yeah, he used to play for Pittsburgh. He was pretty good. I guess he got cut. I had no idea. And so like a lot of these players have played in the NFL already. And I think people, if they did, and some of these quarterbacks are pretty well known. Um, and if they did promote that more, because these people, if they played for your football team, you might tune in just because they played for your football team in the past. And so I think it is a mistake not putting those names out there.
Yeah,
But
well, they have them out there. Like I know St. Louis Battlehawks, they have like three Husker players on it. So I mean, yeah, I know that. Like we're following that pretty
yeah,
crazy, but oh,
but are they playing?
I don't know.
You know? Yeah, and that's the thing. If they were, I think it, people would get more excited. Like, oh yeah, this person just moved up from college and he was on our team, and so I'm gonna watch this and see how he does.
You
Uh,
know, Demornay Personnel, he's playing. No, you don't. Oh,
no,
that I thought maybe you'd know him from the Nebraska team, but there. As I look,
Nebraska.
yeah, well, I mean, he's a good receiver.
Okay.
So I just Brandon Riley, maybe you heard of him, the wide receiver for Nebraska as well.
No.
Yeah, well, I just know that there's another thing I kind of liked is the players that are going to some of these teams. They're kind of closer to. Or, I don't know if this is. I think it's by design, but the they're kind of closer to the colleges for their professional team, and I like that play. I'm like, well, that's good to at least get started. Maybe they can do a draft in time. Maybe that's their ultimate goal. But I like that because I noticed a couple of players going. I'm like, well, it's pretty ironic that some of the players from Nebraska are going to St. Louis. Like it's close, the closest
Yeah.
team nearby. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I think this kind of brings back the conversation to what we were talking about earlier, of developing that talent pool, because maybe these people weren't quite ready for the
Yeah.
NFL, but a couple years and they absolutely could be breakout stars. And I'll guarantee you, if the XFL lasts for, let's say, 3 years, out of those 3 years, I think the NFL is probably going to pick up you know a dozen of these players, and out of that dozen, I bet you there's two or three who are going to be breakout stars, and be big players for the team, who otherwise would never have had the chance to play in the NFL, who would never have gotten picked up again. And so I think the talent pool, and I think overall it's going to raise the level of the NFL. So I like it.
Yeah. Well, I think that some players might give up after 2 3 years. They're not in the loop anymore. They don't know. They don't have the right contacts. This keeps those players that might have given up. It might only be a couple of them, but still, the chance to, like you say, become breakout stars. Because some people they've been through the gauntlet so many times, or they got injured 3 times or whatever, and now all of a sudden things are clicking for them to where they normally would have been just said and done with. Now they actually are or have a chance to go on to bigger things in the NFL, and that is pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, just for a lot of these people too, it's yeah, the NFL would be great, to get a little bit higher of a paycheck, but just to be able to play the game that you love, right? And get paid to play the game that you love. Oh yeah, right. And so for a lot of these people, it's just being able, because in college they don't get paid at all, and that's again a whole nother topic there, but for a lot of these people, it's out of college, it's going to be the first paycheck, in a real career, and so I think that's fun for them, and great.
No, I definitely will go with that. I'm going to go ahead and conclude it. Thank you very much for joining me today, Jake. Appreciate it. Well, definitely, maybe we could talk after week 1 of XFL. What do you think?
Yeah, hey, happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep, you take care. Have a good night.